Hello everyone, this is Ben Robson. I'm about to tell you a story about a German Shepherd called Monty, a shepherd's tale. In this really long video, I'm about to tell you a story about a magnificent dog who was once a stray with his friends who are also strays, until he found a rescuer who takes him a whole new home. But if you want to read it to yourself, you can turn off the volume, and if you want to take a break, you can add it into a watch later list. And before I start, I'm going to let Monty tell you all about himself. Alright Monty, you want to tell them all about you? Yeah, of course I can. Thanks. You're welcome. Hi, my name is Monty. Ben has written a story that tells of my adventures before I found my forever home with Ken Robson, who is Ben's dad. I now have a new family that has 6 German Shepherds, including Max, who is my best friend. Max came with my new dad Ken when he rescued me. I first met Ben in October 2014 when he came to visit his dad. We soon became good friends. Ken told me I have a very strong spirit and the heart of a lion. In March of 2016, my forever dad Ken decided to write a book about his work rescuing German Shepherds. The book is called Tales of Shepherds, and you can read more about the adventures I had with my new family all packed there. Tales of Shepherds inspired Ben to become an author and illustrator himself, and he published his first book in 2019. Ben's mum, Jenny Nache, became ill and found it difficult to leave the house, so Ken would take a pack to see her at her home. Ben's mum loved it when we visited, and I became her favourite, as I was always nice and calm around her. She would stroke me and tell me it made her feel better. I think this is why Ben decided to write a book about me. So, this is my story before I met Ben. It tells of my time as a puppy with my sister and my first family, and the adventures I had that led me to Ken. Thanks, Monty. You're welcome. So, sit back, get yourself comfy, and enjoy a story. In the year 2006, a man named Charlie and his wife named Martha had just retired from work and decided that they would like to get a dog. Charlie and Martha had a lovely home somewhere in the Midlands of England, with a nice big garden, which would be perfect for a dog. Charlie and Martha spent days talking about what kind of dog they would like, and if they should get a puppy or maybe rescue an older dog. Eventually, they decided to check out some local rescue centres. Charlie decided to use his laptop to see what he could find. They found so many dogs in rescue. Martha felt so sorry that these poor dogs had been abandoned. After some time, Charlie had found what he was looking for. Charlie said, "Hey Martha, look at this. There are 2 German Shepherd puppies here that were born in rescue. They have never had a real home." Martha says, "Oh my, they are perfect. We wanted a puppy, but we also wanted to rescue, and they are so cute." Charlie says, "Oh wow, they are so lovely." Charlie read about the puppies. Their mum had been taken into rescue as she had found on the streets as a stray, and just weeks later gave birth to a litter of 2 puppies. The people at the rescue centre named them Monty and Montana. Martha says, "They are very good names, aren't they?" Charlie says, "Yes. Why don't I give them a call and find out if the puppies are still available and ask how we got about adopting them?" Martha says, "Yes. Oh, I am so excited. We need to buy some things for them. Some nice comfortable beds and 2 lovely collars with their names on with matching leads." Martha kissed her husband's cheek, and then he called the rescue centre. Charlie was told they could meet the puppies the next day. Then they would need a home check. Someone from the rescue would need to visit their home to make sure it was suitable, and if all were well, they would need to pay an adoption fee. Then they could pick up Monty and Montana. Charlie and Martha went to meet the puppies, and they were everything they had hoped for. Arrangements were made to have their home check carried out the same day. The rescue decided that a home was perfect for Monty and Montana, and the couple were told they would pick up the puppies the following day. Charlie and Martha were so excited they could barely sleep that evening. First thing in the morning, they went shopping to get some food and things for their dogs. Then they would go straight to a rescue center. Charlie said, "Hello there. We passed our home check yesterday and were told we could come to pick up the 2 German Shepherd puppies." Rescue man says, "Oh yes, you must be Charlie and Martha. Come this way and I'll show you where they are." He and Martha followed the man to see the twins. They entered a long corridor with cages on either side. Most of the cages had dogs of all different breeds inside, all waiting for someone to come and offer them a home. The man led the couple to a last cage on the left which contained the pups. Rescue man says, "All right, here they are." They're called Monty and his sister Montana. Charlie and Martha and Monty and Montana were so happy to see each other. Martha said, "Hello, Monty and Montana, how are you today?" Monty and Montana gave Martha and Charlie kisses to say hello. Rescue man says, "Well, it looks like they're happy to see you and are ready to go to their new home with." Charlie says, "Thank you so much for our new dogs. They will have a wonderful life with us." Charlie and Martha took Monty and Montana to their first ever home. When they got home, Charlie and Martha let the dogs into a house. The pups were so excited they ran into every room and explored the whole house. Charlie says, "Here we are, guys. Welcome to your new home." The twins were shown their new beds and were given some treats. Martha says, "Well, it looks like they are incredibly happy to be here, don't you think?" Charlie says, "Yeah, I think so. Their tails are wagging so hard they could fall off." Once the pups had finished exploring, they all settled in the living room. Charlie and Martha sat on the sofa and watched the puppies play. Later that evening, Charlie and Martha decided to take the twins outside into a garden to give them some fresh air, and to let them have a little toddle around. Monty and Montana had never had such a big space to play in. They chased each other around the garden. They had never set foot on grass before. Everything was so new and excited for them. Soon the pups were tired out and were ready for a nap on their bed. A few hours later, it was bedtime. The pups were worn out, having had a very busy and exciting day. Charlie and Martha had bought them a lovely big basket filled with nice cozy bedding. The bed was big enough for them both to snuggle up in. Charlie says, "Monty, Montana, come here. It's bedtime now." Monty and Montana walked in and lay down on the bed. Charlie says, "There you go." Martha says, "Charlie, don't you think they'll be all right sleeping in the living room?" Charlie says, "Of course they will." Martha turned to the twins and said, "Good night, Monty. Good night, Montana." Then Charlie said to them, "Have a good sleep. We have another exciting day tomorrow." Charlie and Martha left Monty and Montana in their living room and went upstairs to their bedroom. Montana snuggled into her brother. Monty says, "Hey, Montana, I love it when you cuddle into me. This is a wonderful home we have now, sister. We have been so lucky." Montana says, "Yes, Monty, we will be very happy here." Soon the pups drifted up into a deep sleep. 7 perfect years just slipped by. Monty and Montana were now 8 years old. Charlie and Martha were getting quite old and not as able to walk the dogs as much as they used to, but it was fine. The twins were very happy. Every morning was the same. Monty and Montana would wake and dash upstairs to the bedroom to greet their guardians. Montana says, "Monty, are you awake yet? Let's go see Charlie and Martha." Charlie and Martha would wake up to wagging tails. Charlie says, "Good morning, Montana." Martha says, "Good morning, Monty. Did you two sleep well?" Charlie and Martha would then sit on the edge of bed and fuss at dogs. Then it was downstairs for breakfast. On this particular day, Charlie cooked some extra sausages. He knew that was a favourite for his dogs. Charlie says, "Do you like those sausages? Are they good?" Monty and Montana loved them, and Martha said, "They do love their sausages for breakfast, don't they?" She turned to Charlie and said, "So, Charlie, what shall we do today?" Charlie says, "Well, I thought we could take Monty and Montana out for a walk to a local park. Then maybe this afternoon we could visit the woods with them." Martha says, "Yes, that would be nice. The dogs would love that, I am sure. We can let them off lead to have a good run around." Charlie says, "They do like running, chasing each other around. I think we have two very happy dogs living with us, Martha." So, after breakfast, Monty and Montana, Charlie and Martha got ready for their walk to a park. On this day, the dogs wore their blue collars with gold name tags. The park was a short walk from the house. Monty and Montana walked very well on the lead. Martha was getting slower on her walks and often had to hold Charlie's arm. It didn't matter though, they had plenty of time. A short while after they arrived at the park, Monty and Montana were excited. They loved it here. The dogs were let off lead to have a run around. Then Charlie led Martha to a park bench. They would sit and watch the dogs have fun together. Monty and Montana took turns at chasing each other in circles. Monty said, "What a beautiful day, isn't it, sister?" Montana said, "It is, dear brother." Montana stopped running. She did a play bow to Monty and said, "Come on, Monty, catch me if you can." Charlie and Martha enjoyed watching the dogs play. They could get plenty of exercise at the park while Charlie and his wife could rest their weary legs sitting on the bench. Charlie said, "Isn't this lovely, Martha?" Martha says, "Yes, they have grown up to be two fine dogs. We couldn't wish for better. I love them both so much." Charlie says, "Yes, as do I," and he kissed Martha on the cheek. As the twins were running around, two other dogs wandered over towards them. Monty stopped his chase and called to his sister that they should go and greet the new dogs, as they had never seen them here before. Monty said, "Hello there." Montana says, "Nice to meet you." Dog 1 says, "Hello there, how are you doing?" Monty says, "We're doing good, thanks." Dog 2 says, "Hey there, you two. Looks like you are having a lot of fun." Montana says, "Yes, we love playing chase at the park. We come here nearly every day." Monty says, "I'm Monty." Montana says, "I'm his sister, Montana. Would you like to play chase with us?" After a while, the game ended. The dogs said their goodbyes and the twins returned to Charlie and Martha. Monty says, "Okay, Montana, it looks like it's time to go home. I am pretty tired now and could go with a nap." Montana says, "Yes, we can have a nice rest before our walk this afternoon." Charlie says, "Come on in, Monty and Montana. Let's go home." So the family left the park and took a slow walk back to their home. Monty and Montana were back on lead with Charlie and Martha holding hands. When they got home, leads and collars were removed and the dogs made straight for their water bowls. They were thirsty after all that chasing about. Then it was time for a snooze. It was time for the afternoon walk, but Martha was feeling very tired. Martha said to Charlie, "Dear, I feel so tired this afternoon. Would you mind walking the dogs alone? I think I need to rest." Charlie replied, "Yes, of course, Martha. You rest as you need. I will take care of the dogs." Later that afternoon, Charlie and Martha sat down on the sofa, with the dogs resting at their feet. Charlie says, "They had fun chasing squirrels in the woods, Martha. You should have seen them." Martha says, "Oh, they had fun. Just look at them." Charlie says, "How are you feeling now, dear? A little better, I hope." Martha says, "I will be fine. Don't worry about me. I was just a little tired, that's all. Charlie says, yes, I am not as young as I used to be. Maybe soon we will need some help to care for Monty and Montana. I find 2 walks a day very difficult now. The twins were having a lie down in front of a sofa. Monty said, we have had a lovely day, Montana. Montana says, yes, we have, Monty. Monty says, we have a great life here. We have been so lucky to find Charlie and Martha. They are very nice to us. Montana says, they are, but I'm getting a bit concerned. Monty says, why is it? Montana says, they are getting old now and Charlie's legs are weak. I can sense it. Also, Martha smells funny. I don't think she's not well. Montana went on to say she was worried what might happen to them in the future. Monty says, yes, things may change for us all soon, so we might, Monty paused because he did not want to worry his sister that they may have to go back to the cages in rescue, so instead, he said, never mind, I'm sure we'll be fine. Montana says, well, we will always have each other, Monty. Then she cuddled into her brother, closed her eyes, and drifted off to sleep. Change was about to come to the household, and a lot sooner than anyone wanted. The next few months were not kind to Charlie and his family. Charlie's knees had become very sore. After a visit to the hospital, he was told he would have to use a wheelchair. Also, Charlie had started to forget things, simple but important things. Worst of all, Montana was right about Martha. She was ill, and tragically, in this time she died. Charlie was heartbroken, and the twins missed her so much. Charlie was having trouble looking after himself, let alone 2 dogs, so arrangements were made for him to move into a care home. Dogs would not be allowed there, so Monty and Montana would have to be rehomed. Charlie did not want the dogs to go into rescue kennels, so he called friends to see if anyone could take them. No one was able to take both, but he did know of 2 people that would take one each. Not only would Monty and Montana lose their home, but they would also lose each other. Charlie wanted to be with the dogs for as long as possible, so he arranged for his friends to take the dogs just before he was due to leave for the care home. Charlie was so sad, and he gently talked to his dogs to try to reassure them. Monty and Montana were both concerned over what their future may hold. Montana says, "Oh, Monty, I'm feeling sad that Martha's died and now Charlie's going away somewhere. What will happen to us?" Monty says, "I know, Montana. You know, the future can be a bit scary, but whatever happens, you will get used to it." At that point, Monty heard the doorbell ring. Charlie answered the door with Monty and Montana by his side. It was one of his friends that had come to take one of the dogs. Charlie's friend says, "Hello there, Charlie. How are you? I am so sorry to hear about Martha." Charlie says, "Thank you, but it's a difficult time for me. Are you sure you can't take both dogs? It would be really nice for them if they could stay together." Charlie's friend says, "I'm so sorry, but we can only have one. What are their names?" Charlie told him their names, and his friend looked thoughtful. After a while, he approached the dogs to make a fuss of them. The man turned to the twins and said, "Hello there, Monty and Montana." Monty and Montana were getting very worried. It looked like this man had come to take them, but he only had one lead. Montana says, "What's happening, Monty? Who is this man? Why has he only got one lead?" She was worried that she could lose her brother. The man thought for a while to decide which one to take and said, "I think I'll take Monty with me." Charlie says, "That's okay. Montana's new owner will be here shortly." Charlie's friend put Monty on the lead and turned to leave. But Monty did not want to go. He pulled back towards his sister and Charlie. The man pulled harder on the lead and told Monty to come along. Monty started to panic as the man pulled him away. Montana's eyes were wide with fear. She called her brother. "Monty, don't leave me! No!" she howled. Charlie stroked her head and he started to cry. The man had Monty on the lead and pulled him away down the street. Monty was very anxious and looked back at Montana for the last time. Montana was terribly upset and she was howling after her brother. Charlie's friend says, "It's going to be okay, Monty. We're going to have a great time together." Monty was in despair, but continued walking. About an hour passed and the man said they were almost home. Monty's mind was in a muddle. So much had changed in his life in such a short time he had lost everything he loved. He missed having Martha, but he could not do anything about that. He also missed his sister and Charlie, but maybe that was something he could change. Monty decided to escape and return to his family. Monty lets a lead go very slack. He took a deep breath, then turned and ran as hard as he could. The lead went tight, then snap! Monty was free. Monty ran as fast as he could and didn't look back. He had to get back to his sister and Charlie. The man called, "Whoa, how did you do that?" Then he called for Monty to stop and return. Then he gave chase, but he was too slow. He would never catch Monty. Soon the man gave up running. He looked at his broken lead and sighed. Monty ran and ran all the way to his home. He was so excited he would see his family again. Finally, he arrived on the street and ran to a front door. His heart sank. The house was empty. Charlie and Montana had gone. Monty was shocked. He had to find them. He sniffed the air to see if he could find which way they went. There were lots of smells in the air and some of them were very unfamiliar. But he thought he had an idea which direction his sister had gone. He would need to find somewhere to sleep and he would pick up a trail the next day. Monty left his home behind and headed out into a countryside. He needed shelter and water. Monty says, "Where can I go? And when can I sleep?" He searched for some time. It was getting late and he was very tired. It became very dark and it started to rain. Eventually, Monty found a little cave to squeeze into, and at the entrance there was a puddle he could drink from. As Monty was settling down for the night, he looked up at the sky. Monty thought of Martha in heaven. He also thought of his sister. At the same time, in a small house many miles away, Montana sat in her new home. She looked out the window and up at the same sky her brother was looking at. She missed him so much. Monty woke early in the morning. He felt a bit stiff as the ground was hard. He was thirsty, so he had a drink from the puddle at the entrance to his cave. He was feeling hungry as well, but there was no one to feed him. He would have to see what he could scavenge. Then his task today was to find a way to get back to Charlie and his sister. But he didn't really know how, as the smell of his sister had gone now. Monty was wandering through the countryside, thinking about what he should do next when he saw some dogs chasing a pheasant. There was an Australian cattle dog. Later, Monty would discover his name was Reese. There was a Rottweiler called Brody, and a beautiful collie named Casey. Reese says, "Crikey, this is some crazy wild goose chase with these birds." Brody says, "I know, they're called pigeons, ha ha." Reese says, "I know they are, mate." Casey says, "Ha ha ha ha, that was amazing." Then she saw a dog walking towards them. She said, Guys, I see a dog approaching. He seems to be a German Shepherd." Brody says, "Is he lost?" Casey says, I think he is. Shall we see if we can help him?" Brody says, Yeah, that's a great idea. Reese says, okay mates, let's go. The dogs Monty saw were all strays. They didn't have homes, and they all lived together in the countryside. The stray pack walked up to see Monty. Casey says, hello there. Are you alright? Monty looked at a dog who called to him and thought of his sister Montana. Casey said, my name is Casey. Monty went to greet them. Monty says, hey there, I'm Monty. Reese says, good day mate, I'm Reese. I am an Australian cattle dog. Well, I am more dog than cattle, you know. That's just what they call my breed. Brody says, hiya Monty, I'm Brody, and I'm a Rottweiler. Reese says, hey mate, why don't you hang out with us for a while? We can teach you a few tricks to help you look after yourself. We have loads of fun. We go for walks and chase all the critters. There's all kinds of other stuff we do as well. Casey said, so Monty, may I ask you a question? Monty says, yeah, of course you can. Casey says, how did you get here? We have not seen you around before. Monty says, well, it's a long story. Brody says, we have no plans for today, so go ahead and tell your story. Monty told the stories about his wonderful life with Charlie and Martha. Monty explained all the changes that came about that led to him escaping from Charlie's friend, and that now he just wanted to find his sister, but didn't know where to look. Brody says, oh my, that makes me so sad. Casey said, oh Monty, that's terrible, but it's a good thing we found you. We may be able to help. Monty says, thanks. I hope things will turn out well. Casey said, it will be fine, don't worry. Monty remembered his advice to his sister before they were separated. The future can be a bit scary, but whatever happens he will get used to it. Monty felt good about his new friends. They seemed really nice. So, with his future uncertain, Monty joined with a stray pack. Later that afternoon, Monty still had not eaten. The pack were also feeling a little hungry. Casey said to Monty, have you ever tried fish? Monty says, no I haven't. How did you get them? Casey says, we go all the way to a lake where there are fish swimming around. Come with us, we will show you. Monty says, okay, that would sound fun. So Monty went with the pack to the lake. When they arrived, Monty asked how they were going to catch fish and if they would have to swim. Casey said, yeah Monty, we have to get wet I'm afraid. It's the only way we can catch fish. Brody says, like this Monty. Brody walked slowly into a lake and he didn't want to scare the fish away. Then he said, come on in guys, nice and easy does it, the water's fine. The rest of the pack followed and with encouragement from the strays, Monty followed them into a lake. Then Casey said, okay, to catch fish you have to keep very still and look into the water. Sometimes fish swim between our legs, then that happens as fast as you can. You dunk your head into the water and grab them with your mouth. Monty says, oh, okay. Casey grabbed one fish and made it look very easy. Then Reese grabbed another. Brody caught 3. He was good at fishing. Then it was time for Monty to try. He kept very still and waited. Soon he saw a big trout swim towards him. He waited and waited. Then as it swam past his front paw, he thrust his head into the water and felt his teeth close around the fish. He had done it! With the fish in his mouth, he mumbled, I got it! Casey says, well done everyone, let's eat. The pack found a place to sit next to the lake and started to enjoy the meal. Brody says, these fish are so delicious. Reese says, they are. The fish are good for our bones. Casey said, so Monty, how did you find fishing? Monty took a bite of the fish and said, this is good, and it was fun to catch them ourselves. I enjoyed it. Casey said, good. I'm pleased that you are having fun with us. I think it was a good thing that we found you. Monty says, yes, it was. Brody belched. Excuse me. Reese says, "Crikey, mate, that was a noisy one." Brody says, "Thanks." Monty says, "Hey Reese, Brody, are you enjoying your food?" Brody says, "Always 105%. Monty says, "That's good." Then he said to Casey, "You know, I really miss my sister and Charlie, but I don't know where to start looking for them. So right now I have nowhere to go. I really like you, or would you mind if I stay with you? I think you are a great pack." Casey says, "That's nice of you, Monty, thanks. It would be lovely to have you as part of our pack." The pack chatted amongst each other as they finished their dinner. As it was getting dark, the pack took Monty to a place where they slept. It was very comfortable and in a well-sheltered spot. Reese says, "So Monty, it looks like you had a nice day with us." Monty says, "Yeah, thanks Reese." Brody says, "I knew you would like the fish." Monty says, "Yes, that was a very nice meal we had." Casey said, "So Monty, did you know we go on walks every morning?" Monty says, "I used to have walks with Montana. It will be fun to go on a walk with you all." Brody says, "Yeah, walks are amazing and it's a good time for us to look out for food." Monty says, "Are you going to the Midlands Park?" Brody says, "No, we start our walk in the woods, then we head out to a little village at the edge of the forest. Sometimes there are delicious scraps of food to be found." The dogs started to settle down to sleep and wished each other good night. Monty says, "If we find Montana, maybe she could join our pack as well." Monty closed his eyes and drifted off to sleep. As Monty slept, he began to dream. The dream started with Monty running in some hills covered in lush green grass. The sky was clear, the sun was warm and shone brightly. He felt so happy as he ran. Then the sun seemed to get bigger and brighter. Then a ball of light separated from the sun and started to descend towards Monty. As it got closer to him, he could see a shape inside the light. It was Martha. Martha says, "Hello, Monty. It's good to see you." Monty says, "Martha, is it really you?" Martha says, "I have been watching over you and Charlie. I know you miss your sister, so would you like to see Montana? I can show you her." "Montana?" Monty says. "Is she here?" Martha turned her head to where Monty stood. Monty was so happy to see his sister and dashed towards her. Monty says, "Montana, it's me. Monty, your brother. I've been trying to find you." Montana ran towards Monty and said, "Monty, it's you." The two of them frolicked in the grass, jumping and running around each other with tails wagging. Then they stopped running and just hugged each other. Monty says, "Oh, Montana, I have found you." Montana says, "I love you, brother." Just then, Montana and Martha faded away. As Monty slept, a tear rolled down his face. As the dream ended, Monty woke up. He felt strange. He was happy to have seen Montana and Martha, but he was also sad that they were not with him now. Monty didn't want to wake the others, and so he just quietly repeated the names of those he loved. "Oh, Montana, Martha, and Charlie." Then he drifted off to sleep again. That morning, the dogs all woke and greeted each other. It was a lovely sunny day, perfect for their morning walk. Monty stretched and yawned, then shook his fur. Casey said, "Good morning, Monty. Did you sleep well?" Monty says, "Yes, thank you. It was quite comfortable, and I had a lovely dream." Monty told a pack about his dream, then they all prepared for their walk. The first part of the walk took them to a large open field. Monty, Casey, Reese and Brody had fun chasing each other round. Casey said, "This place is amazing. I hope you like it." Monty says, "I do. Lots of room to run around and play." Brody says, "Hey guys, look at me. I can hop around like a bunny rabbit." Reese says, "Me too, mate. It's so cool. Ha ha ha." Monty smiled to himself. It had been some time since he had been so happy. The game of chase ended, and the dogs slowed to the walk. They were all panting and out of breath. Monty says, "Where are we going now?" Brody says, "Time to head out to the woods to see what we can find. Keep an eye out in the trees for squirrels." As they got closer to the woods, Monty heard crying. Monty says, Guys, I can hear something out there." Casey says, "Really? What is it?" Monty says, "I don't know. I will go and take a quick look. I'll be right back." Monty followed a sound of crying. As he got to the top of a small hill, he looked ahead and saw a little girl. She was alone and sitting down by the edge of the woods, weeping. Monty thought she may be lost. He would see if he could help. Little girl says, "Mommy! Daddy! She shouted through her tears, then stopped calling as she saw a large German Shepherd approach. Little girl says, "Hello, doggy." Monty smiled at the girl. Then the girl gave him a hug. Casey, Reese and Brody followed Monty and saw the girl hugging him. Casey said, "Oh my, she's lost." Brody says, "Yup, looks like it." Reese says, "Looks like Monty's got a pet human." Brody says, "Yeah, can we keep her?" Casey says, "What? No, we can't keep her. She needs to be with her parents." Monty knew what to do. He had a good sniff around the girl to get her scent, then tugged at the little girl's shirt, inviting her to follow him. They walked all around the woods with Monty's nose in the air sniffing. He knew the little girl's smell, and he was sure that her parents would have her scent on them. He just had to catch a whiff of it in the air. It didn't take him long. Soon he had the faintest of smells in the air, but he knew it was the right one, and he knew in which direction it was. Monty barked at the little girl. He wanted her to hurry up and follow him. Then Monty could hear voices calling. He was sure it must be her parents. They turned a corner, and sure enough, that they were. Monty turned to a child and smiled. She gave him a big hug and rushed off to her parents. Monty watched as the little girl ran. She said, "Mummy, Daddy, I found you." The girl's mum says, "My darling, we were so worried." The girl's dad says, "Hey, it's okay. You're safely back with us now." The girl and her parents hugged each other. The little girl says, "That nice dog helped me get back to you." The girl's mum says, "Oh, that was good of him." The girl's dad says, "Why don't you stay close next time?" Then she says, "I will." As they walked away, the girl looked at Monty one last time and smiled. Monty smiled back at her, then returned to his pack. Casey says, "Hey Monty, did you help that child?" Monty says, "Yeah, I managed to find her parents for her." Casey says, "That was really good of you, Monty." Later that same afternoon, Reese and Brody were having a walk around the woods near their den. Ahead of them, hiding behind a large rock, was a big hungry badger. The badger saw the dogs and thought they would make a nice dinner for him. He was so hungry his stomach let out a loud rumble. Reese and Brody heard the noise. Reese says, Brody, was that your stomach? You must be hungry, mate." Brody says, "That wasn't me. Uh-oh." Reese says, "What was it then?" "Look." That's when they saw the huge badger running at them. "Ah! Run!" The badger ran, chasing Brody and Reese. The two dogs ran and ran, but then turned into a dead end. Reese says, "Oh, that's not good." Brody says, "Looks like we're going to Rainbow Bridge together. Help!" Casey heard the commotion and was nearby. As a badger got ready to attack, Casey, who arrived just in time, blocked a badger. Then the fight began. Brody says, "Casey, thank goodness it's you." They watched a collie and the badger fight like two predators fighting over meat. Then the badger took a bite at Casey's neck and tore a chunk of fur away. Casey gave out a loud yelp. At that point, Monty arrived. Monty jumped on the badger, who was taken by surprise, and threw him to the ground. Monty barked and growled at him, warning him to stop. 4 dogs were too much for the badger, so it turned and ran away. Monty looked at the pack and said, "Is everyone all right?" Casey says, "Yeah, I guess so. Thank you, Monty. You got here just in time." Reese says, "Good job, guys." Brody says, "Thanks. Me and Reese would have been badger snacks by now." Casey says, "Please be careful next time, you two." That evening, about 2 miles from Casey's den, was a rocky outcrop. This is where a Doberman called Rocco lived with his pack. Rocco was a stray, but no ordinary stray. He was a devious pack leader. He would drift from stray pack to stray pack and make other dogs bend to his will. Rocco hated humans, and he didn't tolerate disobedience from other dogs. If he thought another dog may be stronger than him, he would turn other dogs against it. Rocco thought it was time to visit Casey, Reese and Brody. He wanted to make sure they were still willing to do things for him. Rocco stood on the edge of a rocky outcrop and said, "Well, I think it's time to pay a visit to Casey and her hounds. We will head out at dawn and meet them before their morning walk. I despise humans, as I heard that one of them helped a human puppy. I want to make sure they are not getting too friendly with humans." Stray Dog says, "Yeah, humans are stinky." Stray Dog 2 says, "and hairless." Stray Dog 3 says, "and they are a U and the G and the L and the Y." Stray Dog 4 says, "let me guess, ugly." The strays laughed amongst themselves. Rocco says, "Be quiet! And yes, they are pathetic. And you know what I also hate?" Stray Dog says, what's that, boss?" Rocco says, "Dogs with rings on their necks. A symbol that humans control us." Stray Dog says, "Yes, boss. Those things can choke us as well. Ugh! I hate those things as well. Ugh!" Rocco says, "Now listen up, you mangy, worthless pups. Casey and her friends will be seeing me tomorrow. I want to find out what's been going on. Now let's get some rest." Rocco and his pack settled down for the evening. That morning, Casey woke early and thought to stretch her legs. In the distance, she could see Rocco and his pack walking towards her den. Casey quickly returned to her pack and woke them. Casey says, "Guys, I saw Rocco and he's heading this way. Let's go out to meet him." Casey asked Monty if he wanted to come along. Monty says, yeah, I will come with you." Casey says, "You'll have to listen carefully while we walk. Rocco never liked humans and he's not going to like your collar." Monty says, "Why is that? Is it because collars are put on us by humans?" Casey says, "Rocco never liked anything to do with humans, and do all of his pack. Rocco will want to meet you." The 2 packs of dogs met on a path near some rocks. Rocco says, Well, it's Casey and her hounds, and it seems your pack has grown." Stray Dog 1 says, "What a scrumpy bunch." Casey says, "Hi, Rocco. Yes, I wanted to introduce you to him. This is Monty. He's been with us for a few days now." "Ah, is that so?" Casey was starting to get nervous. She knew Rocco would notice Monty's collar, and his reaction would be bad. She went on to say, "He's a German Shepherd, and he's very nice." Monty walked up to a Doberman and said, "Hello, Rocco. It's nice to meet you." Rocco couldn't help but notice Monty's collar with his bright, shiny name tag on it. Rocco let out a low growl and said, "Is this the one that helped the human pup? Then Casey said, "Oh, Rocco, you don't need to be upset with him over that. He didn't know. He's not been a stray for very long at all." Rocco says, "Casey, you should have known better. You should have told him how I feel about stinking humans. Why is that thing still around his neck?" Casey says, "Well, I could maybe bite through it and take it off." Rocco says, "You should have thought of that before." Stray Dog 1 says, "Whoa, calm down, boss." Rocco turned to a dog and yelled at him, "Are you in charge of a pack?" Then the Stray Dog says, Nope, not at all. You're the legal boss." Monty didn't want to lose his collar. It had been given to him by Charlie and Martha. Montana had a matching collar and it reminded him of her. Rocco, however, would not tolerate it. Also, when Rocco first saw Monty, he thought he looked powerful, which was another reason he did not like him. Rocco says, "Casey, you have allowed a traitor into your pack." Casey says, "What are you talking about, Rocco? He's no traitor. He's done nothing bad to us or to you." Monty says, "Yeah, you don't need to be upset with me. I have meant no harm." Rocco says, "Look at you. You don't belong here. You make me want to exile Casey and her puny little friends for this. You know that." And Monty says, "I don't understand why you are so cross with us." Rocco started walking and circling around Monty and said, "You know what, Monty? You're the one who came from the humans world, and guess what? You are pathetic." Monty says, "No, I'm not." Casey says, "Monty, don't listen to him." Rocco said to Casey, "Shut up!" And to his pack, "Humans are nothing but murderous beasts. They abuse us, they lock us up, and they deny us food." Then back to Monty, "And as for you, you don't belong here, and I am telling you to get out!" As Rocco shouted, he lunged at Monty, biting his left ear and knocking him to the ground. "Ah! Monty! Oh no! Crikey! Ow, my ear really hurts." Monty picked himself up and shook his head. Rocco had bitten through Monty's ear, and it now flopped down to one side. Casey says, "Monty! Oh no! Your ear!" "Oh, what's the matter? Can't you take a hit? Come on, Monty, get up! I am not finished with you yet." Monty became angry and charged at the Doberman. Rocco moved quickly out of the way and lunged at Monty's neck with his teeth. The two packs of dogs looked on, watching the fight between Rocco and Monty. Monty turned his head away from Rocco, avoiding his bite, and slammed his body into Rocco's shoulder. Rocco was knocked backwards, but quickly lunged at Monty again. This time, he tried to jump on Monty's back. Monty fell to the floor, and Rocco tried to pin him to the ground by placing his paw on Monty's head. Then Rocco whispered in Monty's ear, "Now I'll put you to an end, you human lover." Rocco bared his teeth and went to bite Monty's neck, but Monty broke free, and as Rocco's paw slipped off his head, Monty saw his chance. He bit hard into Rocco's leg. Rocco fell backwards and yelped, "Ah!" For the third time, Rocco lunged at Monty. This time he tried to push him off the rocky outcrop. Once again, Monty spun around and hit Rocco hard with his hip. This sent Rocco flying towards the edge of a rock. Rocco started to slip off the edge. He hung on with the claws scraping on the rock. Monty was shocked to see Rocco hanging onto the edge of the rocks. He really didn't want to hurt him. Monty says, "Rocco, hold on! Grab is fine, and I will pull you back up." Rocco says, "I'll tear you apart for this!" Monty says, "Rocco, please, come on. I'll help you." Monty tried to save Rocco, but before he could do anything, his grip on the rock slipped, and he fell. "Ah!" The Doberman fell to the ground below. He landed with a thump and knew he had injured his leg. Monty looked down in horror. He never wanted this. He turned and looked at Casey in shock. Casey says, "Monty, are you okay?" Monty says, I'm sorry. I, d- I didn't mean to do this. Casey says, It's okay, Monty. You had to defend yourself and the fall was just an accident. Rocco should not have attacked you. Reese says, You won, Monty. Good on you, mate. Monty says, Yes, I suppose I did. Rocco was in pain, but he staggered to his feet. As he looked up, he saw a badger looking straight back at him. The badger was not alone, and they all looked hungry. Rocco growled a warning at the badgers, showing them his teeth. The lead badger was not deterred. He sprung at Rocco and attacked. Rocco swung his paw at the badger and knocked him to the ground. Then the others attacked. There were too many for Rocco, especially as he was injured. Rocco was fighting for his life, but this was a fight he could never win. Rocco was never seen or heard of again. Monty was distressed by the whole event. Monty sighed. I'm sorry, guys. I tried my best to help him, but he just wouldn't let me. Rocco's pack had never seen him defeated in a fight before, and so were now very wary at Monty. Stray Dog 1 says, Whatever, we're leaving, come on guys. Stray Dog 2 says, I'm with ya. Stray Dog 3 says, We need another leader now. Rocco's pack turned and went their separate ways, leaving Casey, Reese, Brody, and Monty alone. Casey says, Don't worry about them. They're not a problem without Rocco. With Rocco gone, Casey thought that she could be their new leader, and the two packs could join as one. If she were the pack leader, if they ever found another lost dog, they would offer help to return them to their owners, or welcome them to join the pack, so they would never be lonely or lost again. Late that afternoon, the pack went for a walk to try and cheer up Monty, who was still feeling down over what happened to Rocco. Monty says, There was nothing else I could do, I think. Casey says, I know, Monty. You have a good heart. Look what you did yesterday. Monty says, Yes, I wanted to help that little girl, and it made me so happy to see her back with her parents. Casey said, How's your ear now, Monty? Monty says, It's still sore and very floppy. It won't stand up like the other one. Casey says, Well, I think it makes you look cute. Casey was telling her friends how she thought she could unite the two packs and offer help to other dogs that became strays. Reese says, Hey guys, I just saw something moving in those bushes. Monty heard some voices, then Casey saw a man with a net and shouted, Monty, look out! Monty saw the man and he tried to run away, but it was too late. Monty was caught in the net. No! Cried Casey. Reese and Brody ran off to hide. They didn't want to get caught. Another man appeared and together they dragged Monty towards a van. They opened the net and slipped a noose around Monty's neck and bundled him into a van. As the van drove away, all Monty could do was look out of the window as his friends disappeared. For the second time of his life, he had lost everything. The van drove all the way to a dog pound. Then the men got Monty out of the van and took him inside the building. Inside the pound, Monty saw other dogs all caged, and they were whimpering for their owners to come for them. Dog warden says, There you go, you'll be alright. The man put Monty into one of the cages. He slipped a noose from around his neck, then closed a cage door. Then he turned and left. Monty felt lonely and very afraid. Poor Monty was locked in the pound. He was with lots of other dogs, who were all sad or afraid. Some dogs were whimpering and shaking. One dog just howled. It was a sad, desperate howl. This place was dark, and it felt very bad. Monty said to himself, How did this happen? I should have gone away. Now my friends will miss me, and I will never get to find my sister. The caged dog one says, "I miss my family too." Monty heard the dog saying something and looked at him. "You do?" "Yes. I went to a park with my family. They took my collar off, then they got in the car and drove away. It must have been a mistake, but I know they loved me. I ran but couldn't keep up. Then a man with a net called me and brought me here." Caged Dog 2 says, "I miss mine too, but I have been trying to dig my weight out with my claws. But the ground is hard and now my paws hurt." Ugh. Monty says, "I need to get out of this place. It's horrible here." Caged Dog 1 says, "If you are lucky, you might get chosen. Sometimes families come here to look at us, and if you get chosen, you go away with them. I think you get a new home." Caged Dog 2 says, "If you have been for a while and you don't get chosen, the man in a white coat comes for you. He's very scary and he smells funny. The dogs that he takes away we never see again." Monty gasped and said, "Oh no, I can't do this. I want to go home. I really do." Caged Dog 2 says, "Don't worry, buddy. If I could just dig my way out, you could come with me and get back to your friends." Monty told the caged dogs all about his friends and the adventures he had with them. Caged Dog 1 says, "Wow, that sounds wonderful." Caged Dog 2 says, "I'd like to join them if I dig my way out." Monty says, "That would be great. Well, I guess I need some rest now." The dogs settled down and tried to sleep. The dog in the corner just howled. The next morning, the dogs woke and were hopeful that they would have visitors, and that maybe they would be chosen, but no one came. The following day, the only visitor they had was the man in the white coat. He took the howling dog. The dog did not want to go and crouched down in the back of his cage. The white coat man put a noose around his neck and pulled him out. The howling dog was led away, whimpering. Later that day, another dog arrived and was put in the howling dog's cage. Later that day, October 19th, 2014, Monty said, "Well, I have a feeling this is going to be a good day for all of us." Caged Dog 1 says, "I hope so. I have been here a while. I don't want the white coat man to take me. All we have to do, if we get visitors, is bark to get their attention." When Monty was taken into a pound, German Shepherd Rescue were informed in the hope they could find a home for him before his time ran out. Monty came to the attention of a rescue volunteer called Ken Robson. "That's my dad." Ken spoke to his wife Jo, and they decided they could help. Ken drove to a pound in his Mitsubishi truck along with Max, another of Ken and Joe's rescue shepherds. Dog pound officer said, "Hello there. You must be Mr. Robson. You have come to see Monty, is that right?" My dad says, "Yes, I'm here to pick up Monty." Dog pound officer says, "Oh, okay. Follow me. Let's go take a look at him." Ken says, "I brought Max along with me. He's good with other dogs, and I thought it may help put Monty at ease." Dog pound officer says, "Hello, Max. How are you?" Ken and Max follow the officer to Monty's cage. She says, "There he is. Let me know if you want to adopt him, and he's all yours." Monty and Ken saw each other for the first time. Monty looked a little afraid. Ken said, "Hey Monty, how you doing?" Monty barked in reply. Then Max saw Monty and said, "Hello Monty. My name is Max. You are coming home with us and we're going to have a wonderful time together. So don't worry. You will be the fourth dog in Ken's pack, and we all have a lovely life. We go on woodland walks twice a day. We have great food and a nice big garden to play in." Monty says, "Hey Max, that sounds lovely. I can't wait to get out of here." Monty felt that Ken was a nice man and so decided to trust him, and Max seemed really kind. Ken spoke with the dog pound officer and told him he would take Monty. So Monty and his new guardian Ken and his new best friend Max got into a truck and drove away. Monty looked out of the window at the kennels and hoped the caged dogs would get chosen, but all he saw was White Coat Man walking towards the cages. Ken took Monty all the way to Nottingham. Monty's new life was about to begin. He had a loving family and a pack he could call his own. Monty would be very happy in his new home. Well, that was a great read-along. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Until next time, I'll be telling you a story about two best friends of South America. Thanks again for watching, and have a good night.